Hi Stampin' Friends, it's Chris Slogar from BuckeyeInklings.com, and today I want to show you this card, which I'm calling my Fill a Flower Pot card. It's a fun fold, and you can see the big sunflower flips up, and the card base flips open to the left, and then you've got a little space on the inside for your message. But just fun and different, and it's using this great new bundle called Celebrate Sunflowers that you'll find in our annual catalog. Beautiful stamped images and great coordinating dies with leaves and all the little pieces that you need to complete a card. So if you're shopping in June of 2020 and you use this host code, I will send a spool of Bumblebee gingham ribbon that we're using on this project for free with a $35 order. Okay, so that's my way of sharing the Stampin' Rewards with you. And if you're shopping at a different time than June 2020, just check my website, BuckeyeInklings.com, for the current host code and gift. All right, so let's get started on this card. It's really fun and I think different. So I have made a bunch of the pieces already. And let me show you from that Celebrate Sunflowers, I've already stamped in Bumblebee on Bumblebee cardstock and cut out one of the large sunflowers. And then I've overlaid one of the lacy sunflowers also in Bumblebee. And I also have a blank sunflower in Bumblebee for the backing. And then I've recut the lacy piece, at least the middle of it, in Early Espresso to make my sunflower center. And I've also cut one of these centers out of Early Espresso. Let me just put these together and get that flower ready, and then we'll move on to the other pieces. So I'm gonna just line this up so it completely overlays the Bumblebee center. Okay, so you see that. And I am also going to put the small center in place. I don't want to, there's some cute little holes in this centerpiece and I don't want my dimensional to show through them. So I'm just going to put some little dimensional pieces off to the side. And then I've got my sunflower created. And I'll set that aside. I've also made leaf pieces with our new Just Jade stamped on Just Jade cardstock. And I've overlaid a lacy piece of leaf in Just Jade as well. Okay, so I have those ready. And then for my flower pot piece, the way I've made that is I cut two stitched rectangles. Now you could fashion a pot any way you want, but let me just show you what I did. I have the big rectangle that's 3 5/8 by 2 1/4, and I made a mark here already so I know where the halfway point is. I'm going to cut that in half, and that will make 2 pots. Okay, so I'm using that for the bottom of my pot, and then I've got that smallest stitched rectangle as the top. So here, I'm going to put that together and that will be ready. And then I have a couple of the stem pieces cut from Just Jade. And okay, great. Let's get to the card base now. The back of the base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I have a piece of designer paper that will go in place, measures 4 by 3, and it will just go at the top. But what I want to do first is attach this strap piece. It's a piece that measures 1 1/2 by 3. And by the way, this is our new Misty Moonlight, that color. It's scored at a 1/2 inch, so that will be the tab piece. And I want to put that on my card base before I put this designer paper down. So I'm using my grid paper here so that I can center this at the top of the card, and I'm just adding adhesive to the back of that tab. And it's 1 1/4 inches wide, or I'm sorry, 1 1/2 inches wide. So I know I need like 3/4 from each side of center here. That's how I use my grid paper. If you don't have grid paper, just grab a piece of graph paper. That's always very helpful to center things. Okay, and then like I said, I have this designer paper. It measures 3 by 4, and I'm gonna put that down here, right over that tab. And then, no, I'm sorry, I forgot. I have a piece of Misty Moonlight that is 2 3/4 by 8 1/2. We need to get that base piece on before we put down that designer paper. So sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. Okay, so this is, again, 2 3/4 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. And we're going to put that down at the bottom of the card base, just lined up with the bottom edge. And then we're going to put this designer paper on over that because it will cover up that seam. Okay, so I just was jumping ahead a little bit there. And then also on the inside, I have a piece that's 2 1/2 by 4 that will be the message, the piece for the message, the Whisper White piece on the inside. So you could stamp that, or you could just leave that plain to write on it. And again, I'm lining it up on the inside, and it will overlap that designer paper just a bit. Okay, but all of that covers up the seam from this piece. Okay, and then on the front, I also have a piece of designer paper that's just jade that measures 2 1/2 by 4. So get that in place, and then we can build our flower pot. Okay, so the flower pot, which we've made out of those stitched rectangles, I'm just going to pop up on the front of the card with dimensionals. So I just will attach that kind of in the middle of that lower section. And you could, if you wanted, kind of center that using your grid paper. And then I'm going to attach, I have some of these stems to put in, some of the greenery. Just going to get a little adhesive on these lower leaves. And kind of stick them down into the pot a bit. And we can kind of gauge where the flower is going to be and where we want these to be. And put one in the other side as well. And adjust that accordingly. Okay, and I'm also going to attach these 2 leaves that I created with the stamps and dies to the flower pot here. And then last but not least, I'm going to attach the sunflower. I'm going to just decide which orientation I like. And I'm going to put it in place. Let's see, I'm going to use just a little stamp and seal in case I want to adjust it. And kind of locate that on my flower pot where I want it to be when the card is closed. Okay, and then on the back side of that, I'm going to attach my plain sunflower, and I'm kind of rotating it here to figure out the orientation so the petals all line up. Okay. And that creates our flap. Here, let me give this a harder burnish so that doesn't want to pop open. Okay, so there we've filled the pot, and I am just going to add now, I have this little Scent with Love greeting from Itty Bitty Greetings, and I'm going to stamp it in Misty Moonlight. Oops, not the greatest. That's better. And I've got the classic label punch. Now, I want it shorter than the classic label punch, so I'm punching how I want the right end to look, and then I'm just going to stick it back into my punch. If you can't get it in this way, you can thread it through this way. And I like to use my tweezers for this and just kind of line up that end so that you can make that punch the length that you want it. Got some Misty Moonlight ink on my finger. That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to have that coming out from about here. I'm going to have my stem. I have another stem here to put in place, and I'm going to tie a bow to put on the flower pot rim out of this great bumblebee gingham ribbon. So pretty. Oops. And let's see, where are my glue dots? I'll just set a glue dot here on the rim, just on the underside of the rim, and I'll tuck that stem up in there. Actually, I'm going to tuck it under my greeting. So the stem is on the glue dot, and then I'm just going to add my bow as the last step. Okay, so there you have that fun little fill a flower pot card. Flower opens that way, the pot opens this way, and you've got that greeting space inside. So very fun. I hope you'll give that a try. If not with the sunflower, you could also make a circle full of daisies, because we have really great big daisy flowers that would fill a pot. Or look at your stamps and see what other flowers might work out well. All right, guys, thanks so much. Take care.